Hello, everybody. This is Joshua Hatton with One Nation Under Whiskey podcast, and I'm here today, and mostly as always, usually, sometimes, though not so much this season because we've been traveling quite a lot with my dear friend, my business partner, the illustrious Jason Neal Patrick Harris Johnston J.Y. Yellen.
There you go. Some operational order therein. So hello you, and hello listeners. And if we push the right buttons, hello viewers. That's some dangerous buttons to be pressing there.
Yeah, I've been pressing all the buttons. I know the exact buttons to press to make sure we have viewers.
That's wild. Just wild. So hello, if you're looking at me. I say that as if we've never done this, right? Our tasting videos are all viewers, but you and I sit and have a conversation. I'm normally, disheveled, not looking at the camera very often, sometimes with my back to you. This is different. This is a whole new operational order. Look at that. Theme of the day, operational order.
I'm glad we're doing this. We don't have an interviewee today. Today, we're like, you're done traveling. I'm done traveling.
I'm actually going to talk about travel in today's episode.
Oh, are we? Okay. Like, are we
so
talking
about?
Well, yes, I know. But are you talking future travel? Or are we talking? I mean, I know we're talking about past travel.
Yeah, no, I'm talking future travel as well. I'm going to let people know where they can find me in the not too distant future.
All right. Well, either way, it's really nice to catch up because I feel it's been a while.
I'm in my office for a hot second, and so we've got an interview, and then I will continue on with the rest of my week. But yeah, you and I were just saying before we came on air, here we are recording this early July, and I'm sitting in Virginia, 91 degrees Fahrenheit. The air is thick with humidity. You're up on the shoreline in Connecticut, yet you're still 80, mid-80s, 84, you said?
Yeah, 84, and the humid is, it's kind of kicked it up a notch. I'm schwitzing, as the kids say.
Yeah, this feels like, honestly, for our area of Virginia, this feels like the first week of August, and we're sitting here the first week of July.
Oh, does it get much worse August? Is July usually okay for you?
July, well, the 90s with high humidity tends to be the early August weather.
Oh,
we're still through 80s. Like you're just reporting from Connecticut is normally us still through July.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've kicked into August early.
The good news is there's no climate change to talk of, right?
and I'm sure August will be like old August. It won't be like new August. The weather, The weather. It's great. So you and I were just in Scotland last month, separately, funnily enough. And I tell you, I love going back to Scotland. I obviously love going back to where I was born and raised. I love seeing my mother. I love seeing my brother. I love seeing friends and colleagues. But what I really love is the comfort with which we all discuss the weather. It just makes me so happy. And I love the fact that a weather report for Scotland isn't worth the digital paper on which it is written.
At all.
It's so good. So good. Like, here's what's going to happen today. Nope. Could be better. Could be a lot worse. Could be better for a few moments. A lot worse for several moments.
Yeah.
You might dodge a bullet. You might go out at the right time. You might go out at the wrong time. It's so good. We can talk about the weather like it's an Olympic sport in Scotland. Makes me so happy.
Yeah, we had 3 days on Isla, so we had 11 days total. But our 3 days on Isla, all 3 days had like a 90% chance of rain, and we had maybe a few droplets in the morning, and the rest of the day, gorgeous, just Isn't gorgeous. Yeah.
It feels so good. Weather already feels remarkable in Scotland. When you get it, you feel very lucky. But see, when you go from the weather report saying take your umbrella. Wherever you're going, take your umbrella. And then you don't need that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
That beautiful weather is worth twice as much. That's always my take on it. I tell you the other thing, you and I may have discussed this on episodes in the bygone years. 16 centigrade in Scotland, 61 Fahrenheit.
Right.
Sounds like it would be a chilly day, not a great day, maybe make a pot of soup, maybe stay in the house.
Nope.
Absolutely not. 16 is about as good as it gets, and it's delightful. Absolutely delightful.
It actually feels warm. It feels warmer than an American 61.
100%. Right? I remember, I just said this to Tamara when we were in Scotland. I remember when we did a Whiskey Geek tour and we were on Arran. Actually, that might have been a group I did separate from you. So it might have just been me and a Whiskey Geek group.
Okay.
And I remember us pulling away. Oh, no, you were there. You 100% were there. And I remember pulling away from the accommodation we'd been in. And I remember seeing that it was 16 centigrade. Mm-hmm. The sun was shining and it was just coming through the windows in the van so nicely. Mm-hmm. And that was my first moment in returning from America, where we're used to, 30s. Sometimes it's really bad and you get 40 centigrade. And I remember that was a moment for me where I was like, 16C isn't bad. And so for all of our European listeners, if you're in the south of France, maybe 16C isn't great. But if you're in some of those northern climes, 16C can be a lovely summer's day.
And for our American listeners, 30 degrees centigrade, 40 degrees centigrade, right? You're looking in the 80s, upper 90s, like starting to get to the weather that Jason's talking about that he's dealing with just now, right? Mm-hmm. Hellish, starting to get a bit hellish, as it were.
Yeah, very uncomfortable. I'm just trying to take a quick look. I never remember once again, the operational order, but here we go. I found it immediately. So yeah, currently for American listeners, the 91 that I've got in Virginia is 33 centigrade. So.
All right. And you're talking about sometimes getting up into the 40s.
Air is currently 13 centigrade. Mostly sunny though, so it's probably very pleasant.
Oh, see, that's why God invented whiskey. Oh, there you go. Keeps you warm. Keeps you warm in the winter, cools you down in the summer.
I feel like this needs to run with a disclaimer. Like, Joshua is not a doctor. None of these claims have been scientifically tested.
Not with that attitude.
I've definitely mentioned it previously, but the old Mythbusters busted the myth that you should give a cold person whiskey to warm them up. It actually makes them colder. So.
All right. Speaking of myth busting, can I tell you something?
Unsolicited medical advice. Continue.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I thought about it just right before we hit record, because I was looking at my name here on the screen, right? And for our viewers here, our viewers can see this. My name says Joshua Morrissey Hatton. I fell for an internet hoax. I fell for a big internet. Yes, I did. And I usually catch these. I'm usually like really good, and I'll see them and I'll catch them a mile away. And I'll say, there's no way I'm falling for that. And so myth busting, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm scrolling through Instagram, and someone had posted a news report that the Smiths were getting back together.
It actually makes perfect sense. Pulp's back, Oasis is back. I keep checking the news for Blur coming back.
Yeah, everybody's getting back together. And actually, it was Delma, my eldest, who told me, because she knows that I've been a Smiths fanatic since my early teens, and she said, "Dad, the Smiths are getting back together." And I said,
and you're like, 2 sources.
well, I hadn't seen the source yet. I'd first gotten it from her. Right. And so this is what started it. This is what sort of led me to believe the internet. Right. And you're never meant to believe the internet. Right. And so she tells me this, and I said, no. I said, there's no way. I said, Johnny Marr hates Morrissey more than Morrissey loves Johnny Marr. Like they would never get back together because there's no way Johnny Marr would be caught within 100 yards of Morrissey. This is not going to happen. She said, I don't know. I saw it on TikTok or whatever, right? All the kids, they believe everything they see on TikTok, which is frightening. And so anyway, so a day passes, and here I am. I'm on Instagram, and I'm scrolling through, and I see this like thing on Instagram, and God, I feel so stupid saying this. And I see this, I see this picture of Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And the story is that the Smiths are getting back together with, of course, Johnny Marr and the drummer. And of course, Andy Rourke can't be in the Smiths because he passed away a few years ago, the bass player.
That's an impingement.
Right. But with Anthony Kiedis singing in place of Morrissey.
Oh, Lord.
And somehow I believed it and wanted to just find a noose, right? Dig an early grave. And all I could think is, how could they ever hire Anthony Kiedis to sing in place of Morrissey? And I was so indignant. I was just angry. And then, of course, it was an internet hoax. And I was like, fuck, I'm old. I started believing the internet. Mythbusters.
There you go. What a horrible combination of music and musicians. Can
you imagine Anthony Kiedis singing Smith songs?
Oh gosh. Was this the internet's attempt to get back at Olivia Rodrigo having Robert Smith on stage at Glastonbury?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Friday I'm like breaking up. Friday I'm getting a divorce.
Yeah, Robert Smith at Glastonbury. And Pulp had a terrific Glastonbury. We watched a little bit of that while we were in Scotland. It was a lot of fun.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of fun to be had there. Well, congratulations. You actually just attested to confirmation bias, which is you listen to somebody say a thing that may have no bearing in truth. And then you witness it on the internet. You're like, oh, there's that thing. Yeah, that's what I was just heard about. I heard about that 2 days ago. Yeah, there it is. Boom. Yeah. Got to keep questioning that old internet.
I know. I got to get back on it. Oh, well. What are you going to do, right?
I'm not sure if getting back on it is the answer.
Well, I mean, stop believing the things that are in black and white, I guess is what I'm saying.
Man, oh, man.
All right.
Don't know what to do with you, Hatton. Don't know what to do with you. So you were alluding to it a second ago, but say more for the listeners and viewers about your trip. Because I know, again, talking Instagram, I know you stay off the TikTok. Mm-hmm. But I believe on the Instagram you were charting a few distillery visits with a group of friends.
So I was, and I did, and I touched on this a little bit, as you know, in the last episode with Jess, and I sort of ran through it really, really quickly. But this was with our dear friends. And I'll tell you what, Jason. You heard it. You heard it here. Our listeners heard it here. I went through not an incomplete Joshua Hatton list, but a complete Joshua Hatton list. I listed out the 8 guests with us, plus myself. So there was 9 of us traveling through Scotland. And so this trip was in honor of our friend Jonathan Markowitz, who's turning 70 on your birthday, June 27.
There you go. Good day.
And Michael Nolan had this dream trip, and he'd said, here are all the distilleries that I want to visit within an 11-day span. And so I quickly had to truncate that down. I said, here are the distilleries that we simply cannot visit because Scotland has geographical challenges that will simply make it impossible. And of course he understood, right? He understands the geography, but right, a wish list is a wish list is a wish list, right? Right, which is why he actually stayed on a few extra days with Elhan Orhan, our good friend, and they ended up visiting, some of the spots that we couldn't. One of them being Nicknean. And so we kicked off our trip to a place that I'd never been before, and I'm really glad that I finally got up there, and that was to Orkney. And we went to Highland Park. And first time ever. Have you been to Orkney before?
I've not.
You've not been to Orkney?
I'm a lowlander, dude. That's like the other side of the planet.
I just figured you would have gone to Orkney to visit the town of Twat.
I was banned.
They've already got a Twat there. They didn't need another.
A village is missing its idiot. That type of joke.
But that was really nice. And Michael's such a good guy. He's such a sentimental bloke. He brought a bottle of our 18-year-old Stones of Stenness and kicked off a toast to Jonathan, to the group at Stones of Stenness. Everybody had their glasses, and we all raised a glass to Jonathan and raised a glass to Orkney. And, it's being able to drink that whiskey at the Stones was really special.
I was going to say, yes, Stones of Stenness. It does say from an Orkney distillery. So we've at least given the island away. So, yes, having that at the Stones is a good place to. And those Stones, I think they're a hair closer to Highland Park than they are Scapa, if my geography is correct there. Just a hair, or as the Australians would say, they'd say a bee's dick closer. So when you 18-year-old, is that the retail 18-year-old that we
correct? Did? Yep, it was a retail. It was the
ex-bourbon.
Yeah, second fill ex-bourbon Hoggy, if memory serves. And it's funny, like on the flavometer, I think it was a 4 on the flavometer, but you taste that, I would give it a 2. I'd give it a 2 returning to that. Like, it was so delicate. It was more floral and fresh and malty. The peat was really in the background.
Well, and we still have evolution in the bottle, right? I certainly feel comfortable saying that in my tastings. Again, back to Mythbusters. Has it ever been proven? Has it ever been tested? Is a conversation for another day. But it certainly seems like things that you taste one day that you leave in a bottle as time passes. And especially peat is one of those that definitely softens over time as well.
Yep. Yeah. Phenols fade, right? They dissolve isn't the word, but fade is the right word. So we did that. That was day one, or the next morning, right? We landed in the evening. We got dinner, and the sun doesn't drop past the horizon until like 11:30 or something. So that was quite odd. So we did Highland Park. And then we went to Stones of Stenness. The next day we did Scapa, which was a really an excellent tour. Their new range is stunning. The new 16-year-old Jason Run, Don't Walk to the Store. It's fantastic. It's a remarkably well-made whiskey. The tour was a lot of fun. But here's the most important thing about day number 2. We went off to some beach. The name of the beach escapes me, but I wanted to break out this bottle. And for our viewers, you're gonna like this label. And for our listeners,
not even gonna name it. Listeners are in trouble. You're going to have to call a friend who has viewed the video. There are no rewards for just listening to the episode.
So I got this bottle. The bottle that I'm about to show our viewers was a bottle that I had looked at for my 40th. And I never pulled the trigger. And then it was a bottle that I looked at for my 50th. And I never pulled the trigger. And then I said, you know what? Highland Park is Jonathan Markowitz's favorite distillery. So why don't I just finally pull the trigger and get a bottle? And it is one of the more legendary bottlings. It is the Orkney Dragon, 1973. And we popped this open on the beach. You can see there's really not much left.
I can't believe I came back from Scotland.
Yeah. I needed to save. So I made sure that the boys didn't drink it all. I wanted to leave you a sample. I gave a sample to Jess. I gave a sample to Chris. Carl at Ardnamerkin got a sample.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and there's a few other people that I wanted to make sure got some of this. So, yeah, it's just so getting a chance to drink this particular whiskey on Orkney with someone whose favorite distillery is this, and it's his 70th birthday, like the perfect storm. I wanted to make this as special as possible. So,
well, and to add on to that, I collected the sample that you very generously left for me at Glenmurray. Ian took wonderful care of it, and then handed it over very kindly.
Yeah,
and I poured it on my birthday. I poured it on the evening of June 27. And it was phenomenal. It was, to be honest, and we've said this before, we've been lucky. We've been offered up some great pours. We've tasted some great pours. And we always, maybe I should only speak for myself. I try my best to not be led by the story, by the number, by the age. I try to say, okay, what is the whiskey doing? What's going on in here? And so while, yes, the Dragon, a remarkable release, the label is phenomenal.
Right.
Absolutely love it. It's hard to find it. You got to go hunting at auctions to make it happen. You have to spend above and beyond. I tried to put all of that out of my mind and just taste the whiskey. And it had this anise note running through it that was so delicious on the palate. And it's got that old whiskey effect where it's soft. And we just said this a moment ago on the peat of our own Stones of Stenness, where the whiskey has softened. The age is clear on maturation, but the time in bottle is also clear here.
Yeah.
And it was so velvety. I did think of you in your old Mark Bolland's blue velvet suit line from the old days of Dew Malt. Yeah. And it's just velvety and soft, but the anise, and not even licorice all sorts, but anise and licorice, black licorice, that ran through this kind of herbal component around the edges. I was really happy with it. And I poured half of the sample on my birthday. Okay. And I saved the other half of the sample to bring back and just have under kind of regular conditions in my office. So
good.
I even thought about writing up some notes for it to add to Johnston Yellen drinks. So I haven't had it there in years. Well, I've got the 1953 Glenfarclas over there. I've got the 1964 Karazawa over there. I've got, the Ardbeg group that we tasted. I think I've got a Lafroy group that we tasted. Like, there's some nice moments over there.
Sure.
And I enjoyed this Dragon so much that I kind of wanted to write that up and put it over there as well. So
that makes me so happy. Oh, that makes me so happy. You are very welcome. I'm glad I shared it.
I was glad you shared it too. Yeah, when Ian said, I've got some things that Joshua left here for you, I was like, I'm not expecting anything, okay? And then it was, Yeah, nice bottle of Glenmurray and then the dragon sample. So cool.
Good. You're very welcome. So that was Orkney. My gosh, like I haven't even gotten through to the rest of the trip here. So I'll try to pick up speed a little bit because you've got a lot to share as well. I know that. So that was Orkney, right? And so then we took the plane from Kirkwall to Inverness, hopped into a 9-person van that doesn't fit 9 people.
Never has.
Never has. Never will.
Never will. And then you start putting whiskey in it, and then you're really in trouble.
So stupid. But here's the thing. They make 14-person vans, but they're not available in Inverness. You have to pick them up in either Glasgow or Edinburgh. They simply are not available in Inverness. That is just a fact. So anyway. But
if you spend time in Inverness, you find out very quickly tourists don't go there. Large groups of people don't go there. They have no reason for a 14-person van in Inverness. Right. What is it? Scotland's 5th city? Like, come on.
So we hop in the van and we go up to Glenmorangie. And this was a lovely surprise. So our friend David Blackmore happened to be in Scotland to celebrate his 50th in country. Fun. And this was a surprise.
He's a what now? He's in country. I'm with you. Carry on.
So this was a surprise to the group because everybody knows David Blackmore, especially here in the U.S. I mean, he's the global guy for Glenmorangie and Ardbeg, but he's based in the U.S.
He is the reason rockets have red glare. He's the reason.
How many ginger jokes can we get into this episode?
Oh, wait, that wasn't a ginger joke.
And so first time I had been back since you, me, Meg, and Mike Andrews had been there in what? August 2011?
Yep, that's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah, right. And he took us into the lighthouse, the experimental distillery.
Very fun.
And those stills are quite unique.
Go on, say more.
All right, so here's some things I can tell you, some things I can't tell you. So you know how they have the big giraffes, their stills are the tallest in Scotland and they're as tall as a giraffe, right? Mm-hmm. So their spirits, they've got 2 stills. They've got a wash still and a spirit still. Their spirit still has a cooling jacket around the neck. So when they activate that, they can simulate that spirit still to make it act as if it's a much smaller still, much shorter still.
I'm with you. Yep, I'm with you.
To create a heavier style of spirit.
That's fun.
Which I think is super cool. And then, I can't say too much. I'm trying to think. I have to be.
Oh, boy.
Because pictures were allowed, but I can't share them. So I have to be careful with my words and how I say this. So they have shell and tube condensers.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 2 stills, but they have 3 shell and tube condensers. Okay. So the 3rd shell and tube condenser looks like the others, but it works differently than the others.
Okay.
I will tell you it's a different color.
That was just for Jess. That's just a detail for Jess. You don't even have to tell us what color. Right? Just if it's a different color from the other 2, that's perfect.
And they're able to work that 3rd shell and tube condenser to run it slower, to run the condensation slower if they need to, right? So they can really play around the spirit, right? Glenmorangie, bright, light, soft spirit. Do they want a Mortlach-like spirit? Do they want a Springbank-like spirit, right? Something heavy. They have the adjustability between the cooling jacket on their still and the that third shell and tube condenser to adjust the spirit style.
There you go.
Which is super cool. And they have got this tiny little mash tun, which is like smaller than the diameter of this room. Like it's really tiny. And they can do mixed mash bills in there. They just play around like it's a playground for Dr. Bill. And so we got to check stuff out. Let's just say I'll leave it there. We got to check stuff out.
Checking just with eyes or some checking with mouths?
So then after that, we went into the warehouse and we got to taste through some nice casks, some distillery exclusives. That's right. I'm just walking over your question. Got to taste through some nice distillery only casks, and I'll tell you. Can I tell you something, Jason? I had a revelation here.
Oh boy.
I had a revelation. And actually, this was the first of many revelations across this entire trip.
Okay.
Whiskey that has been matured either its entire life or for an extended period of time. And by an extended period of time, I'm talking, at least in this experience of this trip, 5+ years in red wine can be amazing.
Long-time listeners will be grasping their pearls about now.
One of the best whiskeys I had was a 12-year-old in red wine at Glenmorangie.
We have carefully opened that door a little wider over the last few years, where we have gone from, generally speaking, red wine never working to having the door open, that it can work in certain places, in certain ways, with certain spirits. And so the door doesn't remain as firmly closed as it once did, but it's definitely a your mileage may vary kind of thing, but also worth seeking out and not completely avoiding all the time.
Yeah, I think the key, in a way, gets back to what you were saying about peat earlier, right? Where peat starts to fade away. The key with the red wine casks is you need the wininess to fade away.
Yeah. And the fruitiness to come to the fore.
Correct. Once that happens, then you have whiskey returning to whiskey. It goes from winesky to whiskey. And once that happens, then you have a whole new palette of flavors.
Yeah.
Then you have what we look for in whiskey. We're always looking for new flavors. And that's great. That's exciting to me. And that's what we found in this trip. Being excited by whiskeys matured in red wine casks for an extended period of time presented flavors to us that we simply were not familiar with. And it was exciting and it was fun and it was like just cool to talk about and to share and to just go back and forth on. It was a really, really cool experience.
Yeah, nice. It's great when those moments happen. I remember Becky Harris once told me that at Catoctin Creek about beer casks. And the beer cask would have the hops manifest really early. And if you tasted or sampled it early in its maturation, you would think this is only going to be a hop bomb the rest of its days. And in time, the hops take a back seat and the maltiness of the beer comes to the front. And then that starts complementing the whiskey. So, maturation is endlessly fascinating.
Right.
And then the question is, and what happens if you leave it longer? Right. Does it go sideways again, right? That non-linear nature to maturation that we've discussed a lot of times.
Yeah.
That's good news.
let me move along a little bit because I realize, we only have so much time and you have a lot to share. So I'm gonna do some skimming because I did discuss some of this with Jess. There's some things that I want to highlight here. So I mentioned in the last episode that after Glenmorangie, we went to Speyside, right? And we visited with Ian Allen at Glen Murray. And that's always a treat because Ian has got to be one of the best, if not the best, and I don't say this lightly, tour guide of a distillery that there is. He's remarkable. He knows his distillery. He loves his distillery, and he wears it on his sleeve. Yeah,
no doubt about it. No, he's thorough, knowledgeable, funny. He just keeps ticking along. Yeah, he's very, very good at that.
Yep. So we went there. Then we spent a good deal of time with Ollie, and he took us through the wonder that is Tormore, and tasting through a number of casks, and we went off and we visited an old site where there was once an illicit still, through a field with all sorts of cow shit, cow pies, and sheeps that were just bleeding at us, threatening us the whole time. We were being threatened by a storm coming through as well. But before we went there, we visited this restaurant, this Thai restaurant at the Croft Inn. Do you know this restaurant?
Oh, only from talking to Ollie. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like in the middle of nowhere in Speyside, there's this Thai restaurant called the Croft Inn, run by two guys. And it's some of the best Thai food you will ever have in your life. And again, another statement, I do not say anything.
Man, I really wish they'd moved into regional pizza instead of Thai. See how confident you could be with these words.
But here's the magic of that. Food aside, here's the magic of that, especially for the guests. Ollie is so generous with his time. He had dinner with us, and he opened up to the group, just peeling back the curtains to what it's like reopening a distillery. He didn't shy away from any question. He didn't try to throw any he would never try to throw marketing at anything, but he simply didn't shy away from any question. And he was an open book. And throughout the rest of the trip, the guys kept on saying, what a special time it was with Ollie to have access to someone like him who's reopening this iconic distillery, who's in charge of this liquid. And he's just there for us. And you guys are friends with him. Like, how is this even possible? This is so cool. And yeah, it was just a really special time.
Well, I think Ollie is the great example of a whiskey geek in charge of a distillery, in charge of a whiskey, in charge of a rebirth of a classic brand.
Yeah.
He's one of us. And if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, he's one of all of us. Like, he is a guy listening to multiple whiskey podcasts. He's a guy reading multiple whiskey books. He's a guy going around distilleries on his spare time because he's fascinated by it. He's interested by it. To have a whiskey geek in charge of something like that is exciting. And I hope Sukhinder Singh, I believe Sukhinder Singh knows what he's got with Ollie. He is great.
Oh.
He's absolutely one of the best as well.
Oh, without a doubt. Sukhinder has to know. Ollie's a gem. He's a gem and then some.
Dear Sukhinder, if you are listening, Ollie Chilton is a goddamn gem.
He's a motherfucking gem.
You can make his next paycheck say that. You're a motherfucking gem.
All right. And then, okay, so there was that. We went to Glenfarclas as well. I did a lot of touching on that in the last episode, so I'm going to move on to our time at Ardnamurchan and the treacherous drive thereof. Carl was a host among hosts. We're in the warehouse. Where do you want to go? What do you want to taste? Of course, there were things off limits, because he can only be so generous. But here I am, you know my love for Ardnamurchan. And just...
I think shared by many of us around these parts.
True, but me personally, I was in absolute heaven there. Anyway, seeing these guys, except for maybe two guys in the group, Ardnamurchan was a new distillery to them. And so as a tour guide, being able to witness some aha moments with these guys was something else. And there was one gentleman, Joel, in the group who's an admitted peatophobe. To see him starting to appreciate peat, with Ardnamurchan sort of being he had some with Highland Park that's a bit more gentle. Of course, Ardnamurchan's gentle, but sometimes it presents itself in a bit more, not a harsher manner, but it's a bit more present at times, especially because it's younger. Seeing him start to appreciate that, I loved that. I loved seeing that aha moment. You don't always get to see that in people, and so I thought that was really special.
I think sometimes when you see it with your own two eyes, when you see the process, when you see the people, when you smell the mash in the air, I think it starts to make more sense of what just can appear in your glass. You go, that's I think when you slowly get enveloped by the whole thing and you look at the treacherous road, but you look at the water outside, the coast, the hills, the heather, I think all of that can start to bring, I always wish in any tasting, I wish I could transport people to Scotland and back with more than just what's in the glass. It would be wonderful to stand on the coastline and look back at a place like Ardnamurchan. I will say this, and and we can come back to another highlight if you've got more, but I hadn't intended to take the family, because mine was a family vacation. I hadn't intended to take the family to any distilleries, because really, aside from Zevi and the 15-year-old, nobody really has any interest. But we went to Tormore. We were actually just hiking walking with Ollie and his family, and we were just having lunch with them. And because of the weather, we went back to his house. We were never going to go anywhere near the distillery, but we went back to his house. And as we were going, Kai, my 18-year-old, said, "Should we ask Ollie for a look around Tormore?" And I was like, "No, okay." And as we're sitting, we're telling stories, and the afternoon got later, and eventually we actually left without going to Tormore. We'd just gone in a different direction. Chat had gone differently. That's all good. So then we get over to Skye area, and I say to Tamara, my wife, I wasn't going to do this, but should I book a tour at Torvig? And she was like, yeah, there was some general interest. I'd be happy to walk around one distillery. She was very careful to say one distillery. and I said, well, I've never been to Torvig, so maybe that becomes the one. And our house was, 25 minutes from Torvig. We were staying just outside Kyle of Loch Alsh on the mainland, but just had to hop on to Skye. So we go, right? It's morning time. We go for the 10 o'clock tour. We're going around. I can see Kai, the 18-year-old, is losing the will to live. And I'm having a blast. And the 15-year-old's kind of engaged, and Tamara is kind of like doing her one distillery. And so we wrap it up, and I'm going to say a few more words in just a minute, but we wrap it up and we're walking across the forecourt. And Kai, who is 6'5" and 200 pounds, 205 pounds, mostly muscle, is walking across the forecourt behind me, and from about 10 feet away, 12 feet away, goes, "Well, that was terrible." And I was like, Kai, you can't say that. You can tell me that in the car. I will happily. Like, you didn't have to enjoy it. Like,
yeah.
He was like, "I hate Pete. I hate whiskey. I hate the production of whiskey." And I was like, "What?
Keep it down."
And he and I had a wee falling out in that moment.
Okay.
And he went his separate way, and I went into the visitor center, and I made sure to say, Carol, who was our tour guide, was fantastic. She was really good.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed my time with her. And then Zev came over, and Zev was like, "So, are you going to get a bottle?" And I was like, "You better believe I'm getting a bottle."
You had to save face at that point.
I get a bottle. I'm talking to the lady in there, and she's like, "Would you like a taste of one of the?" It was the 3 distillery only offerings that I was looking at. And so I took a little taste. Obviously, we're in Scotland, 0 tolerance. I had half a thimbleful to get a sense of what was happening, and I already knew I was going to buy it. And I made the purchase. By the time I get out, Tamara has done her usual, which is get in the middle of Kai and Dad. And Kai was like, "What I was going to say was, that was terrible, but I'm glad you enjoyed it as a whiskey lover." And we never got to the second half of that sentence. and so the reason I bring it up is, here, if you're a whiskey fan, and there's a component of whiskey you don't think you like, and you get to distillery, you can join a whole load of dots.
Yeah.
If you're not a whiskey fan, you may not be sold immediately on walking through a distillery. He was in a funny mood, and I was saying to him, like, you watch the shows that are how candy gets made, how cars get made. You watch so many manufacturing videos on YouTube that I was sure, seeing all that copper, seeing all that, you and I always do this when we walk in a distillery, seeing all those lines, that where the hell are they going, and how does that connect to that, and follow that, like how he did. And I feel like he didn't want to like that, but he was the only reason I'd even set up Toravaig, because he'd shown some passing interest at Tormore. It was a very confusing moment with an 18-year-old non-drinker.
Do you think if he'd started off in a better mood, right? Because I think your point's a good one. He watches these shows, the "how did this get made" kind of a thing, and now he's actually physically in a show, sort of, how did this get made? That would be, even if you're not into the thing, you get to discover the thing. Right.
Yeah, I think when we parked the car, and this is what I was saying about your man Joel at Ardnamurchan, as soon as we get out the car at Toravaig, the peated malt with yeast was kind of in the air. And I think his initial olfactory response was, "This isn't a thing I like. I don't like this." And we kept moving towards the door, and then we watched the video, and then we did the tour. And I think he was just continually bombarded with, "This isn't a smell I like. This isn't a taste I like. What am I doing here? I don't want to be here." Yeah. And then I think that kind of snowballed for him. Whereas, and I think for him as an 18-year-old, I think his generation is very much allowed to say, "I don't like this." And I really feel like when my generation, and I'm old as dirt now, my generation was, shut the hell up, tell the person it was good and you had a good time, and then get the hell away. It wasn't a, be honest in the moment.
Oh, God. this remains true. This has been true since you and I have known each other. Kai is Delma, Delma is Kai, Zev is Mimi, Mimi is Zev. Like, I remember taking the girls to the VLA, right, the Very Large Array in New Mexico. All those radar, the satellite dishes, right, where they, you know. And Delma was like, I hate this. I don't want to see this. And she just sort of went off and did her own thing. Like, there's nothing like this anywhere else in the United States. And we are here. Like, check this out. And she was like, no, I hate this. I don't want to be here. I'm going to go off and do this thing. Okay. Just don't get workers, scientists, don't mind my daughter, okay.
Right. You know what distilleries are like. You can't just go wandering aimlessly around a distillery. Like, I'm just looking for the exit. It's like you stay with your group until you get back to the store and then away you go. So yes, sorry, I had to mention that. Very quickly. A few more words on the Torrevieja. Carol was so good and was so deeply connected to the subject. And honestly,
that's great.
I know tour guides are doing 3 of those a day, 4 of those a day, 5 of those a day. Mm-hmm. I felt like Carol was just telling us for the very first time. Like, she was so committed to us knowing, hearing what she was telling us. Like, she was so deep into it.
Yeah.
And then in the tasting room, where it's a young distillery, they haven't put out a lot of releases, there was the Glencairn of their barley. There was the Glencairn of their wash. There was the Glencairn of their new make spirit. And then there was a Glencairn of water with a pipette in it. So you could, do whatever you wanted. And then there was the 2 samples of whiskey that were happening in that moment. And, I think it was releases 3 and 4 from the Legacy series that they're working on the early stuff. But you could take these 2 and very different offerings from the Legacy series and put it next to the wash, put it next to the new make, and chart that story, chart that path. And then Carol talks about why you would add water and what water would do in addition there. And yeah, it was a very good tour. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And so again, right, as much as we didn't get Kai's full sentence out of him, he may have put too long of a pause in the wrong place, or I may have jumped down his throat. Sticks and 2 threes. I had a very good time and thoroughly enjoyed it. And so it was well worth my time. It was the one distillery that we did visit on family time, and I got my money's worth. I was a happy camper.
Good. That's great. No, I'm glad. I'm going to throw in one last little highlight, and then I want to hand it off to you, because I know you did a lot of fun things there, and I feel like a bit of a hog, and I want to touch on Tobermory. Have you been to Tobermory?
I've not.
You've not been to Mull? Yeah. So this is my first time on Mull. And our good friend Jenny Carlson actually helped us out getting a connection there. I had no connection at the distillery, and she helped us out there. Nice. And so we stayed at the Tobermory Hotel. Right, it's right on that coast, right, with all the different colored buildings. Right, if you just do a Google search for the town of Tobermory, it's iconic, right? Mm-hmm. And the distillery is a walk, which is great because I didn't have to worry about the driving. I could dram as much as I wanted to. It was quite lovely. And so we had our tour, and just I'm gonna start off this by saying, and you know this, Jason, right? You and I have had a love of Lichig, a deep love of Lichig, and where you may correct me if I'm wrong. Have you always loved the Tobermory spirit, or at least appreciated the Tobermory spirit?
No, I used to hate the Tobermory spirit.
You used to hate the Tobermory spirit, right?
It was like burnt plastic.
So for me, it was like it was wet cardboard, right? It was very talesy for me, and it just.
And we're talking as two guys old as dirt. We're talking 20 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, for me, 20 years ago, that's when my whiskey journey started, right? 2005. And then there's been spattering of, me trying it a little later on, and it just never fit my palate at all. And so we hop on this tour, and the woman giving us the tour, Diana, was wonderful. Just like your woman, Carol, at Torrevieja, right? She knew this distillery inside out and was able to answer every single question we threw at her. And if you know Jonathan Markowitz, he has
and I do.
He has every question and then some. What you don't know is he has a brother named Richard Markowitz. And if you thought Jonathan had questions, let me introduce you to Richard. Because, man, does this dude have questions too? Absolutely lovely human being. I really enjoyed my time with him. But what I found was there's a reason why their spirit was talesy. And they've actually started to account for it, I want to say, right around the time that, jeepers, Kirsty McCallum had joined, right? Right when things started to kick into 46.3% alcohol, right? This is a woman with a palate, right? Not to say the people before her didn't have a palate, but I think this is a woman with a palate that may fit ours a bit more. That's how I'll say it. Once we get into the still room and you see the set of stills, you see that the still room is quite narrow. And the line arms, and I mentioned this in last week's podcast, the line arms cannot fit in the room. So they come off the still, and then there's this 90-degree turn. I want to say like down and then back and then over. And they wanted to have a long line arm to create a very specific style distillate, but they simply couldn't. And so they created this like it's just like jagged, like you're popping and locking. So for our listeners out there, you couldn't see what our viewers saw. I just did a little popping and locking right there for everybody. So that's what the line arms do. And to sort of compensate for the unusual line arms, they take a really wide Hearts cut. And I'm going to get the numbers wrong here, so I'm going to get a little squishy, but it's somewhere in between, say 74-ish% down to 56, 57-ish%.
Wow.
That's insanely wide.
Yeah.
And that is simply to compensate for the equipment that they have, right?
Interesting.
And so that dictates what their spirit style is like.
Sure.
Once I understood that, once I was able to see that, then their distillate started to make sense. Like last year's Tobermory that we bottled, the 2016, I think was the foot in the door.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. That really opened my eyes. I think opened our eyes. And maybe your eyes were opened before then. I don't want to speak for you, but it definitely opened my eyes. And then once I saw this, and once I had Diana's explanation, now I get it. And then I've had Tobermory's at the distillery, and then since, and I get it, and I'm in love. And I'm just as in love with Tobermory as I am with Lechig now. That's my aha moment, Jason.
Yeah, it's all part of getting out there, right? It's all part about hearing stories like this. It's all part of the ongoing whiskey experience. There you are saying 20 years into your journey, and here you've learned this thing for the very first time, and it's changed how you drink this whiskey. That's why we keep drinking. That's why we keep learning. That's why we keep traveling. That's why we keep recording episodes. Like, there's always something new to be added, let alone the new distilleries that are coming online.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Man. Yeah, that's a fun note. It's interesting. It makes me think of Balblair, where Balblair line arms go through the wall, and then the shell and tube condensers are on the outside of the wall.
So I know there's a few distilleries that have shell and tube condensers on the outside. I think Glen Murray being one of them. But the actual line arm comes through as well?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Wow. Glen Murray's new portion is shell and tube outside?
Part of it is outside. I don't think the new portion, but the old portion is outside. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember when they had done the new build and everything was in the one room, it changed how, the vapor condensed, obviously.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the old build, not the new. Not the
right.
New. Yeah.
Right. Nice. Yeah, that sounds like, anytime you get to go to Scotland, anytime you get to go around distilleries, it's a good time. Doing it with good people and having fun experiences along the way is what it's all about. So I'm glad you got to enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Nolan Markowitz group got to enjoy themselves too.
So my time was with Whiskey Geeks. My time was whiskey led. Yours was family vacation. Yours was with the JY clan.
It was. No, it was really, really fun, really easy. The agreement to keep distilleries out of it until we put one in it. I stood by that along the way. And it was funny actually being in Speyside, driving the family around to go do a walk. I did a walk with Ollie and family, my family, his family, at Blacksboat Bridge. And
that's great.
And so I took a photo of the Black's Boat train station, which is now just a building on the side of a walkway. All these train lines have been turned into crisscrossing walks around Speyside and beyond. They even connect with other disused train lines as well. So it was very interesting being whiskey adjacent without being in whiskey. And so, after Speyside, we headed over to the Skye area. There's Talisker, right? You're driving by the road end to Talisker while you're on your way to the north end of the island to go do a hike with your family. But you're like, oh, if you go down that road 9 miles, Talisker's there. And it was back to that feeling that I had growing up, that distilleries were in Scotland, but they didn't necessarily have to be part of your life. They just existed there. Yeah. So when you're saying like, oh, you haven't gone to Tobermory? No. I said this before. I never visited a Scottish whiskey distillery until I moved to America. Yeah. And then it was like, distilleries. There's a thing to go see. There's a thing to go walk around. So we did some cracking hiking on Skye. That was remarkable.
Did you visit any of the big I shouldn't say touristy spots, but some of the classic spots on Skye?
We did the big jagged the Quarang, and that was the same day as Torravig, and that's the same day Kai was in a very bad mood. And we went up. So you talked about the road to Ardnamurchan. At least the thing about Ardnamurchan is it's not a tourist road, and so you don't necessarily meet a lot of cars. We did a 5-mile single-track road to the car park at the Quarang, and it was mental. Cars in both directions, single passing places. 3 cars couldn't stop at the same time, but 6 of us were out driving. It was a mess. And Kai the whole time was like, we should just go back to the house. We should just go back to the house. Just go back to the house. Sorry. Oh, this day. We parked. Parking lot's full. People are taking all sorts of photographs at the trailhead. Like, it's a shit show. And Kai's like, we should just leave. We should leave now. And it was like, just start. Just get on the trail. Honestly, 15 minutes, you've left the tourists behind. They're gone.
Okay.
Then you're on a trail with other people who set out to do a trail, to do a meaningful hike.
Okay.
And then we actually got to a portion. It was just the four of us. And I've got photos of just the four of us on this kind of like northernmost part of it.
Very nice.
Kind of the halfway part before you turn around and complete the circuit. And it was total chill. And Kai's smile got bigger and bigger and bigger. The more miles we covered and the more hours we spent out there. And turned his entire day around. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The photos are awesome. The experience was awesome. The memories that we share as a family around it are awesome. So that was really good. So really happy to have done that. And then we wrapped that up. Drove the length of Scotland on the most beautiful day of the year. Not a single cloud in the sky for the duration. It was phenomenal. And then, spent time in Ayrshire, saw my brother Murray, who I've talked about plenty, saw my mum, who was over the moon to spend time with her grandsons, as well as her son and daughter-in-law, but mostly her grandsons. So that was awesome. Yeah. And then once the kind of the 5-day family vacation wrapped up, it was back to work and back over to Edinburgh and seeing the gang over there, heading over to Glasgow, seeing the gang over there. Had the pleasure of seeing Jess for nowhere near enough hours, and unfortunately didn't see Chris on this trip. Didn't work out. They had Aaron plans for the Aaron 30th.
And
right,
just
discussed
30. Ooh, did I say that out loud?
We don't say that out loud.
Ooh,
it's enough
sorry,
to
Jess.
She's a 1989. Like, we don't need to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, well, sorry. I was doing math, and I shouldn't have done unnecessary math.
Doing basic arithmetic out loud.
For Aaron's 30th. That's what I meant to say. Yeah,
right. Which she has said plenty of time. They came online when she was 6. So anybody can do the math. We don't have to say the number. So they were actually gone for what was my birthday weekend, but also Jess's birthday weekend. So unfortunately, our paths didn't cross for dual birthdays, which was a real bummer. But I did get to see her for a few moments in Glasgow. And that's always a joy, always a treat, always a pleasure. Yeah. And then I came back and I'd been home. I've been home for 5 minutes, and I am very excited to be staring square in the face my next trip, which is for the first time in a fair few years, and I haven't sat down and looked at my calendar to give you a number, but for the first time in a fair few years, I will be back at Peyton Meeting in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. This is their 16th annual event.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Last time I was there was with you probably 10 years ago. So
right,
there you go.
Right, yeah. It's good. And I did it solo when they were in the LA Union Station. Mm-hmm. They were out the back of that, and I did that event. And was it pre-COVID? Was it post-COVID? Who can tell? Yeah. So. But I know I did that one solo, but this will be me back there. And I will, amongst other things, I will be pouring Ardnamurchan and telling people all about the joy that lives on that peninsula. I'm excited to get pouring that. So for our many listeners, if you're there, if you're around there, please do come seek out the Single Cast Nation table. I will be happily pouring. It's a 5-hour event.
Okay.
So, in my advanced decrepitude, I may be sitting in a chair. Or I'm last time I saw Steve in London, he was in a little mobility scooter because he'd broken an ankle or broken a leg. This was just in San Francisco. If he's still recuperating, I might have to borrow his little mobility scooter as well. So, to get me out and about and around. But No, good group of people in LA, long time classic supporters of what we've done. All the people there that we've taken to Scotland on tour. I'm sure we'll be seeing Maggie Knocketer early and often, just like we were doing in San Francisco. I explained Maggie Knocketer to the family. They were like, "That's a thing Dad does when he's not with us." It's like, you're fine.
How did you explain it though? Did you say Maggie Knocketer?
We were driving through Maggie Knocketer as a family. I rolled down my window and shouted Maggie Knocketer into the warm Scottish air. The family looked at me like I'd lost my mind. And the trouble is, when you then explain the story, it doesn't really help. When I said, there was a night with a Whiskey Geek group where we sat at a stoplight for longer than we anticipated. We got bored. We started shouting Maggie Knocketer. It turned green and we left. And the man in the house may have looked at us. They're like, how is that a story? Had to be there. But it means a lot to 6 people. You have to trust me on that one.
11 years later, we still say it.
And it's 8 people if you count you and me. So here we are.
Exactly.
So I'm very excited to go see the LA crew. My January visit got cancelled because of the wildfires and what they were recovering from then. And so now here we are in July. The moment the Pete and Meeting email came into my inbox, I responded and completed the form and told them I would be there. So I'm really excited for this and to go see everybody. That's a highlight. So that's July 12. It's a Saturday. I'll be there July 12. And then to sow a little seed for long-time listeners of the pad, I will be interviewing the original sea bass, Christopher Sebastian of Blind Barrels. Will be getting interviewed for an upcoming episode, and he's going to bring a little Blind Barrels. I will practice this on the plane. I will get this correct for the interview. He is going to bring Blind Barrels sample, and he will give me the treatment in person that you and I normally do back and forth over the envelope reveal. So
you're going to be embarrassed in person in front of Seabass.
See, I do a better job of guarding my sentences. Like, once you get involved, I'm like, is it that? Is it this other thing? Like, without the witness being led, I'm going to be in a very safe place, in very safe hands.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, that's going to be exciting. Oh, I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
So and then for funsies, we've always had the old, how do you pronounce that? Whenever he emails us, Seabass of Ojai, Ojai. I'm going to visit Ojai and spend a night in Ojai.
Ah, there you go. Okay. Lovely stuff.
I know, that's going to be a time. So there's that. And then, a lot like you, a lot like Jess, I'm also planning out the second half of the year. What'll have me in Seattle, what'll have me back in San Francisco, what may take either of us to Texas. DC, I've got a message out at the moment. Is there a date for Premier Drams? I need to anchor that, and I don't have a date back yet, but we talk about that on the podcast. You stepped into the breach and supported me when I missed it last year because the date came in too late, and I was at Andrew, the Champagne of People Miller's wedding in Boise, Idaho. I want to make sure I don't have a conflict.
And I'll tell you, I loved that event so much that if it works out and if you'll allow it, I wouldn't mind being there with you. We'll have a little tag team.
Oof, there you go. I was waiting on you saying that about LA. DC was up my sleeve. There we go. Okay. Really, it's Jared Card we have to check with. Will Jared Card allow you into DC?
I think I've got to get out of jail free card with Mr. Card. So I think he'll allow it.
If only you had one card that was better than all the others, and it was a MasterCard.
That's what I need. Yeah,
that was a lot of heavy lifting. Not worth it. Not worth it. So there you go. So that's it. I'm back from travel. You're back from travel. We're traveling, but you've got a Minnesota coming up.
Yeah. Let me see.
This month, I mean.
This month,
not just the second half of the year travel, but this month.
I do. So Saturday, July 26th, I'm in Rochester, Minnesota.
There you go.
It's with Jack's Bottle Shop. Absolutely fantastic shop.
Heard good things.
This is their second annual. It's so funny. Your event is called the Pete and Meetin'. Mm-hmm. Their event is called Pete or No Pete.
Oh,
yeah. So there you go. It's like one or the other. And so I'll be there, and we're actually going to be launching their Tormore store exclusive.
Oh my gosh.
There. Yep. And
that's absolutely rocking.
That one's a big sherry on that, but that beautiful sort of that peach ring kind of Tormore kind of just stays there. Really beautiful cask. So I've got that going on, and like you had said, right? I've got Texas in my crosshairs. I've got Chicago in my crosshairs as well, building out the second half of my year. I'm glad you brought up Premier Drams. And we're looking at maybe doing some things with Drammers Club. So listeners out there, yep. Right? Keep your eyes open. We're going to be doing some events with Drammers Club. I don't want to give away too many details. Don't want to tease too much until we have the things to tease, but just keep your eyes open there. There's going to be some fun things happening. And yeah, that's really that's all the news that's fit to print, at least on my side of things. Yeah, no, it's been nice. I kind of like this. That's the wrong way to phrase it. I kind of like this. I kind of like this. So I was trying to fix the grammar on the fly, and it didn't work. I like kind of having a moment to catch my breath in the middle of the year with this episode. It's an episode, we've popped in other seasons as well, where it's just, okay, the first half is behind us. The second half lies before us. How has it gone? Where have we been? What is next? What's facing us immediately? And then it's roll up the sleeves and get on to the second half of the year. So that's the part. I like kind of taking a breath, because I don't get to take a lot of breaths in the year as we run it. That's a very good point. Can I tease one thing out there? Because I've been teasing things for the past few weeks, and this is a big tease, because not to say too much, but I'm known to be a bit of a tease. We have an episode up our sleeves that we've been working on, and we're starting to put the final touches on it. And I had hoped that we will have had it spit polished, all of the burrs gone, nice, lacquered, ready to go. It's not there yet, but we're about to release an episode that we're very excited about. It'll be in the coming weeks, and listeners who have been with us for the past, what are we, 9.5 years into this, will know exactly what I'm talking about. This is a big one, Jason. It's a big one. 9.5 seasons, not 9.5 years, but here we are. Okay, yes, 9.5 seasons. Thank you. All right, let's get out of here. Okay. What do we say at the end of the things? We say, first off, thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our viewers. Always viewers. Right? Hello. Yeah. Hello. And if you've been listening and you say, why can't I see these beautiful faces? Get your eyes tested. Go to YouTube, youtube.com/SinglecastNation, and you'll find our videos here. And here's one thing to mention. The audio version of these podcasts actually get uploaded to YouTube as well. And so if you want to view the video version of our podcasts, like each episode for the video version actually has a logo on it that says YouTube version. So just look for that as you're scrolling through our videos. It will say YouTube version. That will be the video version, right? So check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. There's a little bell below. You can tick that little bell, and it will remind you when we have a new episode coming out. Please like us on Apple Podcasts. Please like us on Spotify. Tell your friends. Tell your neighbor's dog. And if you have a question for us, send us that question, info@singlecastnation.com. I will tell you, Jason, I haven't even told you this.
Breaking news. We
are close to cracking the code and getting questions at One Nation Under Whiskey figured out. Like it has been a nightmare, but we're working with our IT specialists to getting access to this email figured out.
I don't even have words. That's a technical realm that I'll just leave to others.
I was working on this last week, and I think we're close. So I will keep our listeners and our viewers updated. Until then, info@singlecastnation.com. Please send us emails. We actually got an email from Matt Chambers that came through recently. We'll be reading that on an upcoming episode. But until then...
Matt Chambers as in Matt and Karen Matt Chambers?
That's a good
Or is this a different Matt Chambers?
I don't know. He says Matthew F. Chambers.
Oh, yeah, definitely not Matt and Karen. Yeah, no.
Yeah. I don't know, but he says, I will read you part of it. I'll read you his P.S. His P.S. says, P.S. I also say tickety-boo. I have no idea where it came from. My family is Scottish, though, so maybe it's just a genetic thing. So he sounds like he's American with Scottish heritage. So I don't think it's the Matt Chambers. Yeah.
Not the Matt Chambers of the allotment drams.
Yeah, exactly. So, but Matthew F. Chambers, your email has been received. He started from episode 1 and he's just catching up. He's in season 8. He's not even going to hear this until like 2 months from now. But we've heard your message loud and clear. We'll get to your email. So we do hear you. We hear you, listeners. We will get to you. Anyway, Jason, you're my brother. I love you. It was nice to catch up. And
thank you. It's always real.
It's just always real. It's always real, and it's never unreal.
Always real time.
Yeah.
All right, give us a cling and a clang, and get out of here.
All right, I'm gonna cheers you with my bottle of McDuff that I've been dramming on. Which, if you don't have this, dear listeners, dear viewers, on your shelf, change that immediately because it's fucking incredible. All right, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Did that work?